and welcome to another exciting episode of What to Think with me, Dylan Tweeney, and VentureBeat's Jolie Odell.
Hello.
We are here coming to you live from, well, not live. We're here recorded from the studio of New Relic, our sponsor and host. And today we are going to have a very special guest, Chen.
Of Like FM.
You got to get faster at picking up my cues, Jolie.
So I have to look at you and pay attention to you?
Exactly. I know. It's unlike most days in the VentureBeat office.
That's not why God put me on this earth, sir. I'm doing my own thing.
You said it. Let's talk about the news real quick before we bring Chris on. So let's start with another password change demand. Spotify, it turns out, was hacked this week. It revealed that a security breach has taken place, affecting one user's personal details on Android.
Uno?
Yeah, but that's enough to make you worry.
I'm sorry, that's not enough to make me worry.
It's not? I actually don't care if anybody gets my Spotify password.
Unless it's the same as your banking password.
Right. That's the problem, is lots of people use the exact same password all across the internet. No, of course not.
Are you just saying that because we're recording this?
Exactly.
Okay.
I use an app called 1Password, which stores different passwords for every service that I use, and it creates these completely jumbled, garbled, random strings for new passwords. And I have a different one for each service that I use. Very secure.
Can't lose. Rock solid.
Unless somebody gets my 1Password password.
Bingo. And you just gave yourself away by telling everybody on the internet that you use 1Password. So
now they're going to be targeting
Now
that.
they can just brute force their way in.
Yeah.
Ta-da.
Probably.
Yeah. Hope this doesn't land on 4chan.
This happens a lot, though. I mean, last week it was eBay. A couple months before that, it was Target.
Hacked?
Yes. Major breach at eBay. Almost 150 million people, and many of their details were compromised in that.
Well, what do you expect? As more of our money goes online, more of our crime goes online. Used to hold up liquor stores. Now you hack eBay or one guy's Spotify account. Jeez, what's the point?
Okay, yeah. In the continuum of smartness of hackers, I think the guy who hacked the Spotify user is pretty dumb.
Let's talk about dumb. Can we talk about dumb for a second?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Oh God. So, okay. When Rap Genius launched, I was one of the shocked spectators at Y Combinator that day, just sitting there and thinking, are these douchebags for real?
No, this is a site that collects the lyrics to rap songs, right?
Annotate hip-hop lyrics for white people, basically.
Okay.
Or old people such as... Well, you fit into both demographics.
Thanks a lot.
No problem. So one of the founders of Rap Genius decided to take some crazy gun shooter manifesto and annotate it in ways that were apparently really misogynist and kind of horrible.
Now, this is the guy who went nuts at UC Santa Barbara last week and shot a bunch of students.
To be clear, the Rap Genius founder did not shoot a bunch of people, but he seemed like he was justifying some of the rationale behind the shooter's manifesto.
The manifesto is all a bunch of nonsense about I'm going to take my revenge on people because women would never sleep with me kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, and he, the founder, called the manifesto beautifully written.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What is he thinking? Now, this is not, okay, you might think Rap Genius is just okay, that's a fun project for some dudes to do.
No, it was a big business. It
got $15 million in funding from Andreessen Horowitz.
Well, and when you search for rap lyrics, what do you think comes up? Rap Genius is way up there near the top. Now, this guy was nailed before because he was doing some kind of SEO scam for the company.
Right.
Same dude. So and of course they fired the guy.
Good.
My question is, how did you not know that you had a misogynist creep on your team when you founded it? And how did you team up with this person unless you yourself had some misogynist creep leanings? You don't come out of nowhere and say these horrible things unless you're part of some kind of program or culture where that's okay.
So you're saying the whole team might have a problem?
The team, the investors, the incubator. I think it goes all the way down. Those are
some pretty broad brushstrokes that you're painting the entire Y Combinator Andreessen Horowitz.
I have no problem with that.
Well, let's
heard
just
it
say
first here. Tech is misogynist. Ooh.
Oh yeah, breaking news.
That's some Shanley Kane material.
Hey, they definitely did the right thing by letting this guy go.
They did.
We
can all agree
tacky.
on that.
Yeah, I agree. Very tacky.
Tacky?
Yeah, probably just outright gross.
It's terrible.
Okay.
And also dumb.
Yes.
He wins a Darwin Award for that one. Forget that guy.
I think the only way you win a Darwin Award is actually by dying, though, to be technically
Well, his career is
technical
dead.
about it. There you go.
Yeah.
Darwin Career Award. Let's talk about the latest Let's talk about the latest Apple rumor. The latest word is that at WWDC, which is Apple's annual worldwide developer conference happening in June in San Francisco, as it does every year, that Apple may debut some kind of platform for tying together all your smart home technology.
Now, you're more of an Internet of Things person than I am.
I'm not really an Internet of Things person.
Well, whatever. So every time people complain about the Internet of Things, they talk about we need a standard for device-to-device communication. The interesting thing about this is Apple, of course, they're going out there and saying, we are going to create the standard for device-to-device. Supposedly, maybe they're doing this. But also, the Linux Foundation has already gathered this huge consortium of device makers and software makers to say, now we are going to have like a real body that spans the whole industry that will create the standards. So it's going to be just like Mac versus PC bullcrap. You're going to have Apple having one standard, the rest of the industry having another standard, and you'll somehow still end up with two different chargers for all your devices.
Yeah, probably.
So pissed.
I mean, both of those camps do have a point, which is that right now you can do cool things like control the color of your LED light fixtures, like Philips Hue light fixtures, using an app on your iPhone or your Android phone. But you need a different app for each device. So that's where the standardization would come in handy. You have one app control your Nest thermostat, your Philips lights, your smart refrigerator, or what have you,
but
right?
one protocol.
Okay. The only thing is Linux. Really? You think Linux has a chance?
The Linux Foundation is spearheading this to create a standard. This is not Linux-based.
That's not going to be Mac versus PC all over again. That's going to be Mac versus Linux all over again.
You don't know what you're talking about. Linux is on so many embedded devices, and this is a consortium for the Internet of Things. It's not Linux making its own even open source technology.
So for that to work, though, they're going to have to be, iPhone apps and Android apps that interface with that protocol.
Of course.
Yes.
We just need the whole industry to adopt a protocol.
Either that
kind
or we
like
need
TCP/IP.
Apple to ram it down our throats.
That's going to go
Which do
over
you think
well
is
with
more likely?
everybody. Again, rock friggin' solid. Next.
Well, as with most Apple rumors, this probably has maybe a 20% chance of being true, so we'll find out at WWDC in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we will.
All right. Before we get to our special guest, let's just talk real quickly about the NSA, everybody's favorite topic.
Okay, so there's a list that says which U.S. citizens were illegally spied on.
Yeah, and Glenn Greenwald, the journalist who's published many of Edward Snowden's leaks about the NSA, says he has this list and he's going to publish it.
Oh, who's on it? I want it to be like Kim Kardashian and stuff, but
it's going to be a really boring list, probably, unless you're on it.
Oh gosh, it could be my moment. I could be on it.
You could be on it, quite possibly.
I am associated with people who are like, kind of edgy and outspoken.
Yeah, there you go. I will point out that you don't need to wait for this list to come out. You can actually submit what's called a Privacy Act request directly on the NSA website, nsa.gov.
Oh, and how long does it take them to get back to you?
I don't know. 2 weeks, 2 years, probably. You can send it by postal service. You can send it by facsimile. Or you can send an electronic email with a digital signature. They say the digital signature is very important, but they do not say what they mean by a digital signature, whether they're talking about like a PGP signature, or whether they're talking about like you've got to sign a piece of paper and then scan it.
Does anyone want to hear the sound of me banging my head against a microphone?
No, don't hurt the nice viewers' ears. All right, with that said, let's take a moment for a sponsor message, and then we will welcome Chris Chen.
I do want to thank our host and our sponsor, New Relic. They've got this lovely studio set up for us, and they let us talk about anything we want. How kind is that? New Relic is a software analytics company that makes sense of billions of metrics across millions of web and mobile apps. New Relic helps the people who build modern software understand the stories their data is trying to tell them. When software breaks, everyone loses. New Relic helps to improve software performance and reliability, delivering a better experience for users and more success for your business. New Relic supports PHP, Python, Ruby, Java, .NET, iOS and Android apps, and Node. And with that, I'd like to bring on my good buddy, Chris Chen. So Chris, you got into Y Combinator on the basis of Like FM, a Last FM clone, you would say. And you were part of that first batch that got a butt ton of money just thrown at you. They just made it rain all over you.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
Right. So, I mean, obviously at the time, getting into Y Combinator was already the best thing in my life. And then we just randomly at one of the dinners, they would tell us, oh, you're also getting. We actually joked about it. It was like, oh, we're all getting cars today or something like that. It's like, you better. We got $150,000, right? Which is multiple cars. And
You didn't actually go out and spend it on a car, though, did you?
No, I mean, I've heard some companies might have done that. I didn't. I used it to survive for 3 years and basically use that money as slowly as I could to last as long as I could. But in my opinion, I would say it hurt, I guess, whatever I was doing.
Really? I don't understand how that could be. I mean, you had basically 3 years to work on your idea, right?
Well, 3 years to work on many ideas. So the company that I started or got into Y Combinator for, like the music site, it was great. It wasn't going anywhere. I quickly killed it. But what happened was right after that, I had $150,000. I was relatively financially secure, right? And it made me, at least, and this is all just, I can't speak for anyone else. It probably helped other people for all I know. But for me, it made me financially secure for the immediate moment and made me more or less risk averse, right? And so I would.
Interesting.
I was just starting out. I was 20 years old at the time. This was my first time. I was just moved to San Francisco, first time living really far from my parents.
How long ago was this, Chris?
This was like 3.5 years ago.
Okay, so you're 23.
Yeah, I'm 23 now.
23 now, okay.
Yeah, so, I think it's a combination of the fact that I didn't know what I was doing. And I was very young. It was the first time I'm doing it. And then, if I was given that much money, it's going to enhance whatever cluelessness I had at the time, right? If I didn't know anything.
I bet there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there who are, everybody's clueless the first time they do it, right? You have no idea what you're getting into.
Oh, they're clueless the third time they do it, honey.
Yeah, right.
Right. But they're lucky.
Well, some of them. But right, so if you get to do it 3 times, you're in an awesome place. But I think there are a lot of people out there who are like, if I have to choose between being clueless with no money and clueless with $150,000 of capital, I'm going to choose the $150K.
But money can make you dumb. I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I'll tell you why that's a bad choice. So what happened was, if you give somebody clueless a lot of money, then they're just going to do that. They're just going to make you much more clueless, right? You're going to do the wrong thing. You're just going to doing it a lot bigger and a lot slower, right? And that's the problem. I was given that money, so in my idea, I was like, oh, I can start the next Facebook or whatever. And even though Like.fm didn't go anywhere, I thought, oh, well, I'll just keep trying at that. I mean, I have the money to do it, right? I have the money to keep doing that.
Right.
And so what happened was I would spend about 3 years making random non-profitable or, I'm not railing against social or consumer apps either. I think it's perfectly fine to do those. But in my case, I would focus on things that are much riskier, much less chance of succeeding because I had the money to allow myself to do that.
Yeah, I see.
I get that. Oh, do you think that there's kind of a sense that maybe that is why we're in a little bit of a bubble right now, because a lot of inexperienced people, A, are investing, and B, have a little too much money to play with? Well,
I would like to add a disclaimer before I say anything. I spend most of my time focusing on my own startup. I don't think it's I try not to read TechCrunch too much. I might be in startups.
Me too.
Right? But I might be in startups, but I'm in my own startup. I'm not in the startup world in the sense that a journalist might be. So, from my friends who are investors, a lot of them are new to the game, and a lot of them might even get lucky, right? They get a company that succeeds because they get lucky, and then they have a lot of money, and they don't know how to invest, right?
So it's just like your problem, but magnified. So instead of 150,000, they have 150 million, and they're just throwing it everywhere, making really risky bets.
Right, and a lot of people will get money. A lot of more people like me will get money. Like when I was 20, will get money, Sure, that's entirely possible. I don't know if that's actually happening. It's
Yeah.
entirely possible. I mean, if it happened to me, yeah.
What you're saying is interesting because I think there's this sort of idea that among a lot of entrepreneurs, before they've raised much money, that all they need to do is get some venture capital. They got to get to that, really fat seed round or that A round, and then it will all be smooth sailing. But that's not necessarily the case. And in fact, taking that money puts a lot of pressure on people because now you've got to deliver. It's not just you and your idea, but you owe a return to your investors as well.
Right. Well, I think pressure is actually the good thing here. And when I got the money, it actually reduced pressure. That was the problem.
Oh, that's interesting.
That was the fundamental problem because just maybe January this year, I started running out of that money. And I would joke and I would tell people, oh, now finally, YC is actually starting for me because in YC, originally before that 150K thing started happening, you only had like $14,000 or $17,000 to work with, right?
Right, much
and
smaller
then if
amount.
you don't have anything by that, when that money runs out, you couldn't raise any money,
So you didn't feel pressure that like Yuri Milner and his Russian friends would be coming after you, like saying what happened to our investment?
You just made him sound really scary, Dylan.
You're not scared of Yuri Milner?
That was
No.
not the impression that they left on us. I hope that's not what they do.
I'm sure they don't do that.
Well, they would tell us that he's rich enough that this doesn't. It's like changed.
It doesn't matter to him, right?
Yeah,
Which it doesn't.
I mean,
it's like
the way they
3
invested
tiles
it-
on the roof of his Silicon Valley mansion.
Exactly.
So what do you think is the answer then for entrepreneurs? If you really want to foster innovation, do you give them smaller amounts of money?
I can't give general advice to everyone. I mean, there's definitely types of companies which would benefit from lots of capital if it actually requires the capital, right,
Yep.
to test their idea.
Yep.
But in my case, for something that could just be a hobby website, for like a very small thing, like that FM, all it did was it took your music that you played in iTunes and it displayed it on a webpage, right? You don't need any money for that. Definitely
Right.
not to test if that's going to catch on.
Especially if Last FM has already caught
and you
on.
can get pressed for it. Like I got pressed for it without any money, right?
Yep.
And if you can make the argument, yeah, I need at least one piece of major press to test the idea. Sure, you can get that without money. And then at that point, if it still doesn't work out, there's a good chance it's not going to work out.
Let's talk about location. You're based in Silicon Valley, in San Francisco, right?
I was moved here by Y Combinator.
Okay. Are you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
And do you think this is a good place to be starting a company? Where were you before? How does it compare to that?
I was in Detroit before.
Oh yeah, Detroit. There's a thriving, growing startup scene there now, I hear.
Maybe. But
Maybe not quite like Silicon Valley, but yeah, there's definitely
That's
Detroit
enough.
Venture Partners is pumping some money into local startups, and they're starting to build stuff there. The Quicken Loans guy is big there too.
again, it depends on the type of company you're doing. Like for what I was doing, the social music site, I could have done that. I could have continued doing that, and continued having it not really work out in Detroit and saved Yuri Milner $150,000.
Yeah, yeah.
But not only that, it would have saved me 3 years potentially, right?
But you're staying here. You'd rather be here than go bac to Detroit or strike out to Portland or Austin or something.
It could be because of inertia. I was really lazy about moving, and as long as I can stay here, I'll probably just stay here.
All right.
I mean, what happened in January was I ran out of money, right? And yeah, there was a real chance I would have had to move back to Detroit, and the thought of having to pack up all my stuff is a lot of work to me. I didn't want to do.
It is.
And so I got panicked when I started running out of money, and that's when I joked that this is when Y Combinator is actually starting for me, because I'm actually, that's how you're supposed to experience Y Combinator, right? You have in my case, I was a single founder, so I would have only had $14,000, and if I don't do anything in that 3 months, I'm completely fucked. And that was the pressure that got me to finally pivot into something that started making money.
All right. So what's your new startup? Can you tell us what you're working on now?
Sure. We selling oil paintings online, and you might describe it as a lifestyle business right now because it's making just enough to pay rent.
No kidding.
But the thing is, like, this is probably the most useful out of anything that I've ever done.
Well, if it's making money, if it's paying your rent, that is highly useful. This is what we call a job. I like it.
Yes. So you could say that, it's 3 years of experience led to that. But I like to believe that it was the running out of money that led to that. If I had run out of money earlier, I think I would have gotten to this point faster.
Chris, I wouldn't be too hard on yourself. I would say it sounds to me like you went to college and somebody paid you instead of you paying them to get the education that you got. I think maybe you got more out of that 3.5 years.
Well, I think he got more than college. I think he got some wisdom, some real life wisdom. Chris, we have to wrap it up for now, but thank you so much. And I really mean that. I think you're very smart, and I think you have acquired a lot of wisdom from this experience, and we wish you lots of luck with your next endeavor.
Well, thank you for having me.
Our pleasure.
It's been great to have you on. Good getting to know you a little bit, Chris. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of What to Think. Thanks again to our host and sponsor, New Relic. We will catch you next week. And in the meantime, be sure to look for our bylines and those of our coworkers at VentureBeat.com. I'm Dylan Tweeney.
And I am Julie Odell.
Catch you next week.
Bye.